and your minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. Chapter 1. The year I spent with my head in the clouds. I was performing a skit I wrote for a summer camp crowd of nearly 300 students, ages 12 to 18, on a stage in a large room that resembled a log cabin nestled in the mountains of Colorado. Suddenly, someone handed me an urgent message on a Post-it note asking me to call my sister. It simply read, "Call home, 911. Now, this was a few years before cell phones were in the hands of everyone. I know. How did this world function without cell phones? In fact, we had these things called payphones. And yes, true to their descriptive title, you had to pay to use them. With actual coins. Yeah, insane. Nevertheless, I ran down rocky steps and through tall pine trees until I saw a light shining from the one giant pole that also held the electric wires that supplied the dorms and camp cafeteria with modern comforts and electricity. At its base was a payphone. I picked up the receiver and prayed that I could withstand whatever news would come my way. Just weeks earlier, I had buried my sweet Grandpa Sharp, the first grandparent I had lost. I couldn't bear much more news of death in my family, but I was trying to prepare my heart for what might come. I dialed and waited for what seemed like a year with each ring. My sister finally answered, and I rushed to cut her off with, "I'm here. Got your message. What's up?" My sister hesitated to start her sentence, but was direct once she said, "Okay, well, I just saw on the news that your choir was in a plane crash. It's your friends, David, Bonnie, Allison. You need to find a TV to see what's going on and then try to come home." June 1st, 1999 was the date. I had just finished my sophomore year of college and was in an elect choir called the Washita Singers. Most of this choir had gone on an overseas trip that summer to perform in Europe at different churches and venues. It was an elective trip, since you would have to raise funds to go and pay for your own way. When given the option, I didn't want to go, but instead chose to work at the summer camp where I had worked the year before. A handful of others didn't go either, but most did. I was in shock. I had no clue who had survived, if any, of my core group of friends. I was gripped with fear and grief that I had lost them all. It wasn't until about an hour later that I got more facts about what had happened. American Airlines Flight 1420. It was the last leg of the trip home from the choir concert adventures, and the plane crashed as it flew from Dallas-Fort Worth to Little Rock, Arkansas. 11 of the 145 people aboard, the captain and 10 passengers, were killed in the crash. One of those passengers was a 21-year-old friend who lost his life when he refused to stop entering the flames to drag people to safety after the plane had crashed. He was a hero and a quiet young man who spent his life quite literally serving others. And our beloved choir director and his strong and sassy wife, who was also our accompanist and my personal voice teacher, would have to bury one of their young daughters just days later due to injuries sustained during the crash. I came home. I met with my friends who had survived. I hugged necks. I cried. I stayed quiet and let them talk, and we all tried to pick up the pieces of our lives the following semester as classes resumed. Because of this event in my life at the age of 20, I do not love to fly. I have seen the effects firsthand that come with the grief, loss, and devastation a crash leaves behind. Call me sensitive if you like, but I wouldn't even watch a movie if I knew it had a plane crash scene in it. I was in avoidance mode. I didn't want to remember that year following the crash and the effects it had on my friends, our community, and our joy. Now, fast forward nearly 20 years. It was May 19th, 2016, when I posted the Chewbacca Mom video.